There are many different strategies that you can use to invest in real estate. In this episode, we have the privilege of learning from John Morey, who has a lot of experience with 3 great strategies that you can use when getting started in real estate investing. Let's jump in so that you can learn what these 3 strategies are and how to use them.
Are you a working professional but struggling to balance the workload of your career, family, obligations, and preparing for your financial future? If so, this podcast is for you. You've spent years learning your craft, and now it's time to focus on your financial future. This podcast will teach you what you need to retire wealthy and happy. Let's dive in.
Welcome to the Retire Wealthy and Happy podcast. In this show, we provide financial tips and tricks to build up your passive income and also methods that you can use to protect your wealth so that you can plan a better future for yourself and your family. We're grateful to have this podcast sponsored by Monument Real Estate Capital. Monument Real Estate Capital, helping you retire 10 years early through real estate investments. On today's episode, we're excited to have John Morey with us. A brief background about John: he is the manager of JP Real Estate Group and has been since 2016. He previously worked in the aircraft industry for over 20 years as an avionics engineer, and he has a passion for salsa dancing. A brief overview of what we'll cover in today's episode: we're going to talk about rehabbing real estate, we're going to talk about wholesaling, seller financing, and short-term rentals. John, thanks for being on the show with us today.
It's a real pleasure, man. This is exciting.
We're excited to have you here. John, would you be willing to take a few minutes and introduce yourself a little bit more and just tell us how you came to be today?
Yeah, sure. I used to be in the aircraft industry for a while. I traveled quite a bit, not just as a direct employee, but as a contract engineer, kind of like a hired gun, you would say. And one of my specialties really is night vision equipment. So I helped design some of that kind of stuff. Then in May 2016, they decided, well, you know what? Let me just kick you out. Oh. So I got fired, and that's okay, right? Yeah, it's all good. It just didn't work out. So during that time, of course, my wife was, got on the phone. She's my first call. Oh boy, we were both crying together. It's crazy. Then my next call was my good friend of mine, Jim Ingersoll, and that's when he said, "John, that's the best thing that's ever happened to you." And you know what? He's right, because that day I made, I think, 5 offers that day. I didn't sit down and mope. No, I made 5 offers, but didn't get any one of them. But that was the start. You just, when something like that happens to you, you lose a 6-figure income. You don't sit around and cry. You get up and you move. And in this business, if you don't have action, it's all about the study. That's all you do is just learn. But there's no action. You're not going to get anywhere. So then, of course, I just kept moving with that. I did my rehabs at first, which is a big mistake for a beginner. Don't do that. I didn't have any help. And yes, but fortunately, those 2 rehabs that we did it really well, I spent a lot of money on it. Well, those are our best Airbnbs right now. So, but now, we move forward. I've learned a lot from other people. There's always a learning process in this business. You never stop learning. Always elevating every time. And so now we're into tiny homes and also trying to buy mobile home parks. So it's very exciting.
John, I got to ask you, you said the day you got fired, you submitted 5 offers?
Yes.
You must have been doing something before that to jump that quickly.
Yes. Well, I was dabbling a little bit here and there. At night, I would make offers at night. I also had my real estate license at that time. And I come to realize I really don't need that. But at that time, I was making offers, and the market was good at the time, too. 2018, that's when I really actually exploded. I was closing every 2 or 3 weeks, 1 to 5 properties.
Wow.
During that time. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So it was great. So, yeah, I was dabbling at the time. But then that's when Jim Ingersoll told me that's the best thing that's ever happened to you. Because after that, I started making a lot of offers.
That's awesome. Before we jump more into your real estate history, I got to ask about the salsa dancing, because I found that on when I was researching you. So tell us about your salsa dancing.
Oh, boy. I could only do one thing at a time. Either I'm going to be a salsa addict or a real estate addict. It's hard to be both. So at that time, yes, I'm the salsa daddy in Huntsville, Alabama. I'm the one that started salsa over here. And it was great, man. It's dancing for 17 years. I traveled the country. I had dance teams. I had the dance studio. I had like 4 or 5 classes. But then when I stopped in 2016, 2/3 of the dancing stopped in Huntsville because I was running 2/3 of the dances.
Wow.
Yeah, so it was great. Oh man, I love it. Oh yeah. You got to see me dance one day. You're gonna say that white boy can dance. I love it. Yep.
The salsa king. I love it. So let's jump into talking a little bit more about real estate. So the first topic I want to discuss today is rehabbing. You're saying that you've got some experience there, but it didn't necessarily go the way you had planned. Before we jump into that, can you give our listeners just a quick breakdown of what rehabbing a property means to you?
Okay, for me, it's work. It really is. It's not it's not for the faint of heart. And there's a lot of influx of cash in the very beginning. So, and then plus there's a lot of surprises. And just on and on and on of all these issues. And if you get the wrong contractor, that's it. Then there goes your budget. It's out the window. So it really is a job. You have to manage all these moving parts. It's not as easy as when I like to do contract for deeds. That's my favorite. Once I get a property under contract, I sign it over with a contract for deed. I'm done. It's really that simple. When it comes to rehabbing, if you're a beginner, I do not suggest doing this at all because it will look all the white hair. Yeah, that's from the rehabbing. I still do them. However, you become selective. Once you've gotten burnt quite a few times and you have the experience, then you become selective. Now, unless I make a pretty good profit with my joint venture partners, the smallest one I had was 42% return of their money. Unless I get a good return like that, we're not touching it at all. So now that's intermittent, and it becomes now just a tool instead of my go-to thing to do in real estate. I have friends that are really, really successful in this. It's their business, but you have to make it a business. You have to have your teams, and then you have to have all these other people involved in that to help you. You're doing it by yourself, I wouldn't suggest it. It's very difficult.
Well, they make it look so easy on those TV shows.
Oh, HGTV, isn't that wonderful? We wait for those people because they call us and go, hey, we're out of money. Good, I'm here. We'll take care of it.
Are you willing to give us any more details about why rehabbing didn't work out so well for you?
Yes, the thing that didn't work out for me because I didn't have the experience. I didn't have a mentor. I didn't have anybody that I can go to at the time. I was just learning. I didn't understand the value of networking. That's another thing that's extremely important. Once you are involved in this business, you have to network. You have to build the relationships. Then with that, you're going to learn who are the doers and who are just the fakes. And then you're going to learn who are the people that can help you. They have their own teams. Now you could leverage their team that they will help you just elevate. So that was my biggest mistake. I didn't have the right network. I had a lack of experience, period.
Well, and I think our listeners could pull out what you're saying, but I want to ask it specifically. If you were to start over, or if somebody else was wanting to do rehab seriously right now, what would you recommend they do in a starting position?
Starting position, first network, attend some of the RIAs that are out there, or travel and learn what other people are doing. Take your time. This is not, it's not like the microwave, right? You put it in there and it cooks. It's done. No, this is a slow cook. It's like baking, or like roasting. Got to take your time. So go in there and network. That's the biggest thing. Find out who the players are, especially in your area. Then once you find out who those people are, take them out to lunch, pick their brain. Then once you find a property, then now you could possibly team up. That would probably be one of the best things, is team up with somebody, share the wealth, share your profit, because that is going to give you the experience that you need. Then you can now limit that. But you still need to network. You still need to get somebody that will guide you.
Yeah, some people, when they start out, they want to keep all the money for themselves. But the reality is, if you're not experienced, there's a good chance you're going to lose the portion of money you would have given away anyways in your learning curve, right? It's going to...
That's me.
That's what happened to you.
That's me.
Yeah,
right
so
there.
For anybody listening that wants to do rehabbing, find a partner to start with, or mentor, or whatever you want to call them, and be willing to give up some of the profits at the beginning so you can learn and not have a bad experience.
Oh, yes, man. You can't give enough money for that. You really can't. That experience is going to take you so far into the future.
And then the next one will go easier. And then hopefully you keep getting better and better.
Yeah, there's always still going to be challenges, right? But it won't be as bad as if you do it by yourself the first time. Oh, no. Right now, I have my own team now. So I just let them go. I tell them what I want, let them go, and it's all good.
Well, and in regards to rehabbing, we talk to a lot of people that do rehabbing, and it sounds like even if you're really experienced, you could be 20 or 30 rehabs into different projects, and you could have one that loses money just because there's so much that's unknown, and they don't all go perfectly.
Especially older homes. The older homes, there's hidden stuff that you might, the first time you see the house, you're going to go, oh, man, I need this, I need that. Okay, you're good. Once you start taking out the walls and everything, oh, boy.
Find some surprises.
Some wonderful surprises.
Hopefully you're getting to the point where you don't have many of those, but I'm sure.
Well, every now and then, that's what I said. We're shifting a little bit of what we're doing. When we do a rehab, I have my guys go out there and really dig in for me.
That's smart. That's very smart. Well, let's switch topics a little bit and talk about real estate wholesaling. And we've had a couple other guests on that have talked about wholesaling, but I want to talk to you specifically because if I understand correctly, you also teach people about wholesaling. Is that right?
Yes, I do. And in today's world, some states are really making this illegal, right?
Hey, John, before you jump there, will you give us your explanation of what wholesaling is?
Sure. Wholesaling is really just like everything else, right? Say if I get a property under contract and I already don't want to mess with it, I just want to make a few $1,000, I will sell my contract to another investor or another person. That's really the gist of wholesaling. It's really that simple. But if you dig deeper into that, there's a lot of things that goes with it. If you become a wholesaler, then you learn to be a better negotiator. And the better negotiators, they're not always about the price. It's all about solving the problem of that seller and how you're going to do that. Most wholesalers, that's where they fail. They think it's all about the price and they walk away. Now, I've taught several wholesalers over here how to go ahead and negotiate based on the problem, not on the price. And there's one guy that I pretty much bought almost everything he brought to me because I taught him how to negotiate that well. So he didn't have to look for any other buyer. I was his buyer. So yes, and yes, the ARV is also another critical thing. A lot of people do not understand how to do the after repair value. A lot of people think, I have to find the highest value of that. Well, that's not right. The best value for ARV, it is actually a range. It's in that middle section. It's not the lowest value. It's not the highest value. It's a range. Let's say you might say the ARV is between $100,000 and $150,000. That is a good range to tell somebody instead of saying, the ARV is $175,000. Well, I always challenge him. As a former engineer, I challenge that. Show me where you prove that is $175,000. Where's the formula that you came up with? They can't. Nobody can. Nobody could argue with me about that because they know they're wrong. It is actually a range. It's a value because the after repair value, that's exactly what it says, right? After repair value, the word repair, what's in there?
Yeah, that could be
you have granite, range. Right? Yeah. It could be so many things. Did you use gold? Did you use silver? Well, what did you use? So that is where people get hung up on. It is bad. And the other thing is also estimating repairs. The best way to do that really is grab a contractor, pay him $100, $200. Hey, can you help me give an estimate on this? There's somebody was telling me that that's not a good thing, though. It is, because any kind of repair that somebody says what the value is, it is an estimate. Nobody can be that accurate at all, ever. And I'll challenge anybody with that also. There's nobody can do that, even the best.
Especially if the walls aren't exposed, right?
Oh, yeah. That's why. There you go. See, now you're reading my mind. There's nobody can say that unless they tear everything up. That's a new construction. You could tell easily because it's brand new, right? So that's why I always tell people, and also don't be greedy. If you're going to do wholesaling, yes, it's nice to shoot for $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 in your pocket, right, as a wholesale fee. That's great. However, why not do many $2,000 wholesales, right? 5 a month. How about do $5,000, 3 a month? That's a pretty good change, for doing hardly anything, really.
Yeah.
So, but see, people, when they start getting greedy, they think they need to hit a home run every time. Home run it's going to come, but you have to do it right. I love base hits. Man, I'll do base hits all day long because the home run will come. And I've had some of those.
So, John, tell our listeners, why would they consider doing wholesaling as an investing strategy?
It is a good strategy because you will learn so much. Then you're going to elevate yourself from being a wholesaler to now an investor. You're going to learn how to negotiate. You're going to learn how to deal with the contracts. You're going to learn how to go through the closing process. So all those things are in there that you do as an investor anyway, unless you're just the money person. But if you're a deal maker like me, I go through all that process. So I could wholesale, or I just keep going as an investor. I have JV partners, and it's wonderful to go through that process. And that's why I teach it that way. This is your stepping stone to elevate yourself to becoming an investor. Wholesaling will teach you a lot of things in the whole process.
So if I'm understanding you correctly, you're saying that wholesaling is probably a good place for people to start their investing journey so they can learn.
Especially for those with no money. Okay, if you don't have any money, that's a good start. But now I'm actually about to teach a class. I'm writing the syllabus right now on if you want to start in the world of real estate, either you have money or you don't. Those are the two categories, right? So if you don't have any money, well, here's the subcategories for that. Then if you have money, well, here's the subcategories for that. So I'm actually, it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger because, it's getting complicated, especially if you have a little bit of money. But then you just have to decide, where are you? So if you don't have any money, wholesaling is a great start. If you have some money, you could dabble on that, learn it a little bit, but then now you become the bank and just go, hey, make my money work.
That makes sense. And you've taught classes before. You're talking about writing a syllabus right now for a new class. Is that an in-person class or do you do that online?
Yeah, I like to do in-person stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
this is my preference.
Well, I'm trying to give you a shout out here. So if people in your, which city are you located in?
I live in Athens, Alabama.
Okay.
So I cater to Athens, Madison, and the surrounding North Alabama pretty much.
Okay. So if any of our listeners are down there, they should check out John's wholesaling class so they can learn how to be great investors, right?
Oh, well, you know what? Anytime.
Okay.
It's not my thing, right, to be the teacher, but I do teach. This comes back to my salsa dancing background. I'm very good teaching beginners how to become really good dancers. So it's kind of the same thing with the real estate. I like the basics. I like to be on the foundation. And then everything else, I just call it like, if it's like a Christmas tree, you have all these ornaments. Well, the ornaments is just the advanced stuff, but you need your basic foundation to hold up that Christmas tree.
Hey, that makes sense to me. Got to start at the right place.
At the right place.
Otherwise, they'll just fall over, right?
Oh, yeah. It's all gone.
Before we move on, is there any other things that you would recommend people don't do so that they're not being greedy? Does that make sense?
Yes. What people should think about is how many of these do they really want, right? Do you want to close 2 or 3 properties a month, 1 property a month, 5 properties a month? So if your goal is to close as many as you can, then just look at your numbers, make it tight, because the risk is really on the investor that you're selling it to. So let them have the big chunk of that profit, and then you have some. So just keep that in mind, okay? They're taking a bigger risk. You just wrote the contract, you're selling the contract. Get what you can, because speed is important. If you make it so attractive, that investor is going to keep coming to you. And guess what? You don't need 20 investors. You need 2 or 3. And just keep feeding them. And before you know it, the money's coming in like crazy.
Good points. Thank you. Just a reminder for our listeners, today we're talking about rehabbing, wholesaling, and now we're going to talk about seller financing and short-term rentals. So, John, let's jump into talking about seller financing because you got some experience there as well. Can you give our listeners a quick overview of what seller financing is?
Well, seller financing, especially on the creative side, there's 2 sides, right? Either you're the one being the bank or the seller is being the bank for you. Now, when I am the bank, I like to do contract for deeds. It's just, it's a wonderful tool. It's not good for everybody, but once you learn how to do it right and you have the right lawyers in place and you also have the correct paperwork in place, it's a wonderful thing. But some people don't like that. Now, also the other way other people do seller financing is it's just like the banks would. There's a transfer of title. Contract for deed, there's no transfer of title yet until they pay you off. Now, if you do just like a regular bank, there's a transfer of title and everything. Then now every state's different. You got to look at the laws in your state. Then you can just be like the bank, and then you have a servicer that will take care of all that stuff. And it's really just like being the bank. It's really that simple. What was your other question? On the seller financing?
Well, I think you were talking about the two different kinds.
All right. Yeah. Okay. Now the other side is when I approach a seller, I do it differently. I try to first present the benefits of why they should be my bank. And when I do it that way, my success rate is much higher than when I was first trying to do this. I'll just say, hey, why don't you seller finance the property to me? That didn't go very well.
They probably didn't understand it, right?
They didn't understand it. So I had to dummy it down, really down, and say, hey, by the way, have you thought about maybe trying to be my bank? They go, what's that? Oh, well, let me show you why that's a good thing. And then we just go flow into that I explain all the benefits to them. Why is that a good thing? And here's the true story. There's two gentlemen that did seller financing to me. Well, I had a balloon payment in 4 years. When the 4 years came up, it just so happened that both of them were at the same closing table. They were talking to each other and said, do you have another property? No, not really. Oh, man, I was really enjoying this money coming in. This cash flow, I really was liking that. Now they're going to have this flux of cash. Both of them said, this is going to be gone in 2-3 months because we're going to start paying all our other debt. They didn't want to do that. They were enjoying the money coming in. They were paying off their debt slowly. They were using that money for their vacations and everything. So they were really enjoying that. So there you go. That's another benefit of why I do seller financing, because then you get to enjoy that cash flow over time without trying to rush to get the influx of money. And what happens? Within 6 months, actually, all that money is gone. That's just the nature of people. They'll spend it somewhere quickly.
You already answered one of my next questions, but I'll ask it anyways to see if you had anything to it. I understand that seller financing is one of your preferred methods for cash flow. Do you want to tell us any more about why that is?
Well, the good thing is this. Let's just compare rentals, which is actually rentals are very good for the long-term wealth. The seller financing is good because I don't have to worry about maintenance. If you have a rental, you have to allocate money for anything and everything that can happen. For example, HVAC. When that goes out, that's a big chunk. Almost all your profit for the year is gone. But when you do seller financing, contract for deed, like I like, well, they're responsible for that. Unless it's an insurance issue. If it's an insurance issue, I deal with that. If it's not, if he just dies, guess who buys that HVAC? They do. So look how much savings, just that example right there, look how much savings that is to me. So my profit margin is higher as opposed to having a rental. But if you want long-term profitability and also long-term wealth, rentals is the way to go.
And why do you say that?
Well, because you're not selling anything. Your equity is building every time. And you know how the rich do it, right? When you have all that equity, they just go in there and tap into that and refinance. Just keep repeating that cycle. So you just keep pulling the money out tax-free. That's why.
I understand these principles, John, but it's good to hear you say it so that our listeners understand it from somebody else's point of view as well. So Thank you for sharing that. And if I'm understanding you correctly, one of the nice things about seller financing is that even if the income you're receiving from the property is lower, your operating expenses are much lower, possibly zero, and that helps make your return higher as well. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. But also when you do seller financing, you could actually dictate what that is. But of course, you don't want to go crazy, right? For example, if the house is $150,000, what the market would do, you don't want to price it for $200,000, and that would be crazy. You could do maybe 160, 165 because you want to capture the future, right? And yes, if people will stay there, especially if they really enjoy that or they're grateful that you gave them the opportunity to own a house that they can't go to a bank for. Oh boy, they'll take care of that house, man. You should see the people that don't call me. Hey, John, look what we did to the house. Come on over. I get invited. Yeah, we break bread and I love it. They say, John, thank you so much. And I go there. We just chit chat, have a good time. And I say, well, I got another friend that needs a house. Let me know when you got another one. There you go. Because of that, right now, I don't have anything because of the value that they saw that I gave to them, giving them the opportunity. Now I don't have any houses. So of course I'm in the market looking for houses.
Your business plan's working too well. It sounds like.
But that's okay. I like it like that. We're helping people. Actually, my wife said that I didn't know this. She's the one that said, honey, this is your mystery. You don't even know that. I go, wow, I didn't really realize that it was. I'm helping people that cannot or do not want to go to the bank. I'm their bank. And I'm giving them an opportunity to have a house. That was really good.
That's wonderful.
Yep.
I want to throw this in there because obviously you're doing great things. Would you say that seller financing is a good beginner strategy, or is that more later? Because you've been doing this for a while. Mm-hmm. Would you say that people should start with seller financing, or they should wait? I guess I'm saying if you own a property, would you wait a couple years before you're doing seller financing? Because obviously you could buy seller financing anytime.
Yeah, no, if they have the right education, they could start anytime. The biggest thing is really understanding what you're getting yourself into. I made a post just recently about real estate investing. It's like you have this big plate of there's different kinds of foods on there. Which one do you like, right? So you taste it, which one you like. So in seller financing, I could almost bet when people understand how this really works and how well it works, they have the right documentation, they have competent attorneys in their side, because you have to have them, because every now and then you're going to have somebody that thinks they're going to try to pull a fast one on you. Well, then you have your attorney jump right in for you. You got to have, I've been there, so, but once you have also a good team of people that you can call your network, it's a wonderful thing. So I can't really say if it's a good for a beginner or not. It's more about the education of it. Once you're educated on it, do the first one, get your feet wet, and before you know it, man, you'll be like a marathon runner. Off you go.
I like how you keep bringing it back to that, because it doesn't really matter which strategy we're talking about. Education is a very important beginning step to make sure you're not throwing your money away, or I should say losing your money incorrectly.
Man, you hit that right on the head. That's exactly right. And also, don't forget the network. You get educated, but you need your network. Those two together. And of course, you need action, right? I always say, if you have a hammer in your hand, you don't use it. What good is it, right?
Yeah.
It's worthless. So that's your education. You got that education, you got the hammer, but you're not using it. Well, use your education, use your education, and get with the right people to help you. Man, you're going to explode. I shot up like a rocket because of my network.
Yeah, real estate's a great way to build wealth. And as long as you're willing to put the time in to build your network, learn, and do the action, it's very doable for people. I think the important thing to add on top of that is it does require a lot of time. So if you're not willing to put the time in, it's almost not worth doing, because you're probably going to end up losing money.
This is not an autopilot.
No, it's not like those TV shows. Those TV shows are such a lie to us.
Well, so many people fall for it, and that's where you and we wait, and they knock on your door. John, I need some help. I don't have any more money.
Yeah.
Let's talk.
We'll help you.
Yeah.
I loved all that, John. Do you have any other thoughts about seller financing?
Oh, no. The only thing I can say really is if you guys really want to do this, go ahead and start reading some books, start attending some of these events that cater to that. Just be careful. Of course, there's a lot of events out there that really just want to suck your money. So pick the right ones that the real players are in there, and learn from them. And before you know it, man, you're going to love seller financing. Yeah,
to that point, there's a lot of information that's available for free. A lot of podcasts, a lot of websites, a lot of books. There's a lot of information you get for free if you're willing to put the time in.
You bet. YouTube, as much as crazy it is sometimes, but there's a lot of good people out there that have put some great information. Just search that to begin with.
Yeah. Good point. Let's switch topics and talk about short-term rentals and corporate housing. So on your website, it says that you do short-term rentals and corporate housing, or is that?
Yes, I do both. It just depends on which client comes to us. Some of them that stay with us 2-3 months, and sometimes just about a week. Our minimum stay is 2 days. We both have tiny homes over there in Albertville, and then we also have regular short-term rentals in Decatur and in Huntsville, Alabama.
So, John, we've had one previous episode where we talked about short-term rentals, but we haven't done anything talking about corporate housing. So could you briefly explain the difference so that our listeners understand?
Sure. The main difference is corporations out there that maybe they have people that are coming into town that might need housing for the meantime. You could have a 30-day short-term stay with a corporation. They come in, they put their people in there. That's really just the main difference is all these companies out there that they have hires, they want their people to stay at a house. They don't want to stay at a hotel. And because it's cheaper for them. It really is. If you look at some of these nice hotels, right, 150, 250 a night. Imagine that. And you have a 2-bedroom, 1-bath. And actually the best short-term rentals, by the way, are 2-bedroom, 2-bath or 2-bedroom, 1-bath. Those are the best. Not the 3 bedrooms, not the 4 bedrooms. No, those, if you're by the beach or something like that, some kind of resort, that's good. But if you're in the city like where I'm at, I'm not a resort town. It's not. So we have a lot of travelers. They love our 2-bedroom, 1-bath that we have. So that's the main difference. It's just who is renting it from you. And I have a friend named Al Williamson. I think he's the minimum stays 30 days. He started with 3 days. Now all of his short-term rentals, minimum 30 days, or 60. He's targeting just nothing but companies, all corporations.
Well, and a good point to add on what you're talking about there is that you really have to know your clientele, right? Like,
yes,
that's part of a real estate investing strategy, is to know who either your client or your end user is, because you're talking about 2 bedrooms, 1 or 2 bathrooms is ideal for your clientele, which makes sense for your market, right? But maybe that wouldn't perform as well, like you're saying, on the beach or something. So
yeah, you have to understand your avatar. That's another good point. That's with anything. If you're doing rentals, who are you going to cater to? Are you going to do low end, mid end, or high end? So you need to understand who are you going after. That's your avatar.
And does the market support that, right?
Yes, that's another thing. You got to know your market. That's why, people that fly by night doing the wholesaling virtual, they don't know our market. So I have not bought one from a virtual wholesaler because they don't know our market.
That makes sense. Real estate's definitely a local business, right?
Very local. That's why I don't invest elsewhere except a 2-hour drive from my house.
That's awesome. So in my research about you, I found you were talking about smart Airbnbs. What do you consider a smart Airbnb?
Well, it depends on where you want to look at it, right? A smart Airbnb can be denoted as what's in there, if there's any smart stuff that's inside the house, right? Or your market and it is a smart Airbnb in that area for you. See? So it just depends on how you want to look at it. So I want to look at it as it's a smart Airbnb for me because of my area. I know that I'm always going to be booked because I understood the area, I understood my clientele, and I know what they want. So that's a smart Airbnb for me.
Sounds more like a smart operator to me.
Well, you learn. You learn what works and what doesn't work, and you better adjust quickly. You cannot not adjust. You have to adjust really fast.
Well, it sounds like you're doing great at it too.
I'm trying hard.
Well, since you're operating in that space, I'm curious if you have any thoughts about what you think will happen with the short-term rental market in the next 5 or 10 years.
For me, though, I think we're still going to have that. What's going to kill this business is really the platform itself. Airbnb themselves is what's going to kill the platform because of the craziness that they're doing with their regulations and their policies and all that. So many operators now are having their direct bookings. I'm one of them. I have all the platforms plus my direct booking. And, it's a good mix. But there are other operators that I know, they have more direct bookings than with Airbnb. And even though they stay there, but they just know how to push the people towards direct booking. So Airbnb is still going to be around for a while. The sad thing about the short-term rentals, though, is so many cities out there are really putting the squeeze on short-term rentals. So, those are things that we can't control. What you can control is just do the best you can while you're still alive and just keep moving forward. And if something does happen in your city, shift. You just have to shift. You need a backup plan. If your short-term rental is not working anymore, make it a regular rental.
Well, and that's a good point that things can change at any time.
At any time.
You just have to be ready to pivot. Well, I want to add on, I should have mentioned this earlier, but it'll fit here as well. Whether we're talking about short-term rentals, seller financing, wholesaling, all of those things could have legal, local laws that impact them. So before you jump into any real estate investing strategy, make sure you understand the market and the local government that you're working under, so that you don't get yourself in some giant trouble, because there's some states that won't allow wholesaling.
Yes.
And you can get in big trouble for doing them there. But there's other states that are like, sure, do it here.
And that's growing. The states that are allowing it, they're growing like crazy. A good friend, I don't know if you know who this guy is, Mr. Jeff Watson. He is an awesome attorney. And yes, he's watching all this stuff, and he's in Ohio, and he's seeing a lot of states following. I think Ohio is one of the states that you can't wholesale anymore unless you have a license. So if you have your license, then you're good. So a lot of states, I think, are following that, if I'm not mistaken.
And either way, check on your local everything so that you don't get yourself in trouble, right?
Yeah.
John, I've made it through the majority of my outline. I've got a couple more questions to ask you that we ask everybody, but do you have anything else you want to cover with rehabbing, wholesaling, self-financing, or short-term rentals? Oh,
no, man. I think I hit the high point, especially on the greed part. Oh, man, that really irks me. Can't be greedy. There's a lot of money out there. Can't be greedy.
Well, I just want to throw this in there, too. I love your energy. You seem like a very happy person. And
bro, I love helping people. That's the thing. People ride with me, say, hey, John, can I pick your brain? Sure. I said, be my shadow, but remember, that's what you are, a shadow, right? So wherever I go, you just tag along. You can't stop me from doing whatever I do. I said, but I'll help you. Ask me all you want. I don't care. And they said, sure. Yeah. So I have people just sit right next to me, and then we just go on my business. I love it.
Well, you're probably a great person to learn from. So, John, let's jump into the final four. These are 4 questions that we ask everybody that comes on our show. So the first question I want to ask you is, what is your favorite business book?
Oh, boy. You're making it hard on me now.
Well, you can give us a couple if you need to.
Okay. Well, I think like everybody likes the Think and Grow Rich, Everybody likes that. That was my first book, actually, that I really dug deep in, and I still read it to this day. And then there's this one book that really elevated me. It was actually Profit First. A friend of mine, David Richter, he asked, I think Mike Michalowicz, I think that's his name. I can't really pronounce his name correctly. They collaborated to make the Profit First for real estate investors. So David Richter is awesome. He's also another investor. He rewrote the Profit First original book to make it Profit First for real estate investors. That book right there will elevate any investor. The premise is the envelope method, but made it for today's world. And he goes into how real estate investors can use this to their advantage. I love that book.
It's a very important, Profit First is a good mindset, right? Like,
yes, because we were all doing it incorrectly. I know I was, but the moment I start applying that, oh man, I know where every penny is going because of it.
Yeah, managing the finances is very important. So
yes.
Thanks for sharing that. Our second question today is, what brings you happiness?
Oh boy, another crazy question.
Salsa dancing?
Oh yeah, well, that one, well, boy, don't get me started on that. Well, the 2 things that brings me happiness is seeing my family, that if they need me, I'm there. Not like when I was working my W-2, I was stuck at a desk. Now they say, hey, Daddy, where are you? Well, I'm over here looking at the property. Well, can you come get me? Sounds good. I'll leave. I just take off. Then the other one is that I can provide for others, especially on the housing. We have a lot of people that have money, but for whatever reason, either they just don't want to go to the bank or they can't go to the bank. So I'm their bank, and I provide the housing for them. That when I see the smiles, I hand them the key. Oh boy, that smile is like, woo, way up there. And then I get invited to their house after they do the rehabs and all that. Man, there's not a better feeling than that. It's amazing. It's amazing.
Thanks for sharing that. A lot of people, when we ask that question, talk about either family or some type of relationship. So I'm glad to see you're in the same area there.
Yeah.
The next question is, describe for us what your future retirement looks like.
I don't see a retirement. I don't. I will die if I stop doing what I'm doing. I will be dead. So what I see though is constantly improving and creating this generational wealth that is for my family. That's what I'm doing. So then with that also, I'm also educating my 2 kids. I have an 8-year-old and a 12-year-old. They both have already invested with me, and they actually talk real estate, which is great, especially my little boy. He's funny. He'll say, hey, Daddy, when are you going to get that house? Because I want some cash flow. An 8-year-old talking to me like that. I want some cash flow, Daddy.
That's awesome.
That's amazing. So that's where I'm at. I don't see myself just stopping at all. I don't want to sit there by the beach and just have margaritas. I do that here already anyway. People say, hey, John, what do you want to do? Let's go have a margarita and let's talk real estate. And there you go. So I don't need to be by the beach just to do that. So I'm not going to say there's no really real retirement except just keep doing what I'm doing and elevating and helping my family for generational wealth.
Your future retirement might be you running your real estate business with your kids.
You know what? That's my hope. That's my hope.
There you go.
But here's what I tell my kids. I want one of you or both of you to handle our business. If not, that's okay. Then mommy will just sell everything. However, if you do it this way, let me show you how this money can keep coming into your pocketbook without you even doing anything. They go, really, Daddy? Yeah. So I'm showing them how that works.
That's good. And at a young age, too. That's awesome.
Oh, yeah.
Well, our country needs more of that.
Yeah. Well, I wish our education system would definitely teach kids how to think outside the box. But that's another topic.
Maybe we'll create that in the future.
There you go.
John, what do you think is the best way to give back?
Well, there's really no one specific way. Just keep helping in whatever form that may be, right? Whether that's information, whether you just smile at somebody, whether you just give them a hug, whatever help that comes about when you encounter people, just keep helping people. When you do that, everything opens up tremendously, because I know it's happened to me. People help me, and now I help a lot of people. It's a wonderful vicious cycle. It's not an ugly cycle. It's a wonderful vicious cycle. Just keep helping people, and it'll come back to you tenfold. That's what God wants you to do anyway.
Looks like you're doing a great job doing that too.
I'm trying, brother. I have one person to answer to. He's up there. He's watching me.
John, where can our listeners find you online?
Okay, well, my personal website or my business website will be www.jpregroup.com. So jpregroup.com, or you can call me at 256-469-3099. I answer my phone. I'm not one of those guys that I have a VA that's going to do all that stuff for me. No, I like to answer the phone. But if I don't, leave a message and I'll call you back. If you don't leave me a message, I'm going to wonder why'd you call. So just call me.
We'll have those details in our show notes for everybody too as well.
Yes, awesome.
So just a quick summary for our listeners. On today's episode, we talked about rehabbing, wholesaling, seller financing, and short-term rentals. John gave us a wealth of knowledge on all these topics and how you can utilize them, whether you're just starting out as an investor or if you've had multiple years of experience, and make sure that you're checking all the local laws so you don't get yourself in trouble. Thanks for joining us on the Retire Wealthy and Happy podcast. We hope to see you next time. Thanks, John.
Good day, everybody.
Hope you got value from this episode. And if you have a minute, then take the time to leave an honest written review for the podcast, because we take those reviews seriously and it'll help us serve you better on the next episodes. And most importantly, be sure to start taking action so you can control your financial future today.